this video, we will be discussing about count number of bad pairs. You are given a zero-indexed integer array nums. A pair of indices I, j is a bad pair if I is less than j and j minus I is not equals to nums of j minus nums of I. Return the total number of bad pairs in nums. So what they are saying is that in the input, we are given an integer array nums and we need to find out the count of all the bad pairs in this array nums. Now, what is a bad pair? So, bad pair is a pair where I is less than j and j minus I is not equals to nums of j minus nums of I. Basically, the difference between the indices is not equals to the difference between their values, right? So, if we look at this example and we fix our j and then try that j with every I towards its left. So, we'll see if we make it as j, then we don't have anything towards the left. Now, if we check for this one, so it will form a pair with this element, right? J will be 1 and I will be 0. So now if we check 1 minus 0 will be 1 and 1 minus 4 will be minus 3. These two are not equal, so it is a bad pair and it will be counted. So the count has become 1. Then this particular element will form a pair with this and this. So if we check with 4, so it will be 2 minus 0, that is 2. 3 minus 4, that is minus 1. Again not equal, it will be counted. Then we'll check with this. So it will be 2 minus 1, that is 1, and 3 minus 1, that is 2, again not equal, so this will also be counted. Then this particular element can form pairs with all three elements, right? So first 3 minus 0, 3, and 3 minus 4 minus 1, not equal, it will be counted. Then 3 minus 1 is 2 and 3 minus 1 is 2. Now these two are equal, which is these two, right? So these will not be counted, right? Then the next will be 3 minus 2, that is 1, and 3 minus 3, that is 0. Again, these two are not equal, so this will be counted. So the total number of bad pairs are 5, and this is our answer in this particular case, right? Now, how to solve this? So the brute force approach would be that you take two nested loops and you try each and every combination to find out where you are having a bad pair, right? Basically, you can run a for loop of I starting from 0 going till n, and then another for loop of j starting from I plus 1 till n, and then you can check the condition of this bad pair. If it is, then you can count it, right? And at the end, you can return this count. But this will go till n square. And given the constraints, we cannot follow the approach of n square. So let's think of a better solution. So here in this particular case, why are we going n square? Because there are two variables involved over here. We are checking each element with each and every element towards its left, right? That is the reason. What if I write this equation as j minus nums of j not equals to I minus nums of I? Basically, I have shifted nums of j over here, so it became j minus nums of j, and I shifted this I over here, so it became I minus nums of I. Now I have only one variable towards the left and one variable towards the right. And here it's nothing but the difference of index with its value, right? So if we try to find out the value of this for all the elements, then what it will be? So here it will be 0 minus 4, that is minus 4, 1 minus 1, 0, 2 minus 3, minus 1, and 3 minus 3, 0. This is what we have got. Now, again, we will have to check that, okay, if I am making this as my j, then towards the left, I need to find out that how many elements are there which are not equals to 0, right? That is minus 4 and minus 1. So then that means keeping this element as my j, I have total 2 bad pairs, right? Now see, for finding out that how many different elements we have, different elements could be anything. Basically, these numbers could be anything. But if we see the same element, that is always going to be equal to this element, right? So what if somewhere I have the count that, okay, before this index, what is the frequency of 0? If I have that, so what I can do is that whatever are the number of elements that I have towards the left, I can subtract the frequency of equal element from that, and I will be able to get the number of bad pairs. Basically, this particular element will be forming pair with three elements, right? Basically, the total pairs that this element will form is 3, right? And then if I know that the frequency of 0 before this index is 1, so what I can simply do is that I can do 3 minus 1, that is 2. So this 2 will give me that how many total number of bad pairs are there if I make this as my j, right? So basically, with this, I am just trying to identify that how many good pairs is this particular element forming, right? What I am checking is that where this value is equal, right? Basically, I am checking where the values are equal. correct? So for this element, we were having total 3 elements and the good pairs were only 1. Why 1? Because the frequency of 0 is 1 towards its left. So total is 3, number of good pairs is 1. So I did total minus good, and that gave me the number of bad pairs for this particular index, right? If we do this process for all the elements, we will be able to identify the total number of bad pairs in order of n time, right? How? Because we will be maintaining the frequency of each and every element, right? We are moving from left to right, and in a hash map, we can maintain the frequency of each and every element, right? So basically, if you see for this element, there is nothing towards its left, right? So we will simply in our hash map update it, right? What we will update? This particular thing, 0 minus 4. This equation we are using, right? So in the map, we will update the frequency of minus 4 to 1. So now here, what are the total number of pairs that it is forming? 0, because there is nothing towards the left, right? And how you will get the total number of pairs? So see, this is not forming any pair. So the total number of pairs are 0 and its index is also 0. Then if you check for this element, it is forming only one pair with 4, right? And that is what is its index. And if you see this one, this is also forming 2 pairs and index is also 2. This element is forming 3 pairs and its index is also 3. So basically the index is telling you that what is the total number of pairs that that particular element is forming, right? So for this index, what are the total pairs? 0, right? And in the hash map, for this initially the hash map will be empty, right? So the number of good pairs will also be 0. So 0 minus 0 will be 0 only. So that's okay. We have updated it in our hash map. Now we will move on to the next index. So here the index is 1, right? The total number of pairs are 1. And what will be the number of good pairs? You will do 1 minus 1, that is 0, right? And you will find the frequency of 0 from the hash map, right? So it will be 0. So good pairs are 0. So the total number of bad pairs will become 1. That is 1 minus 0, that is 1, right? And then we will update the frequency of 0 to 1 over here. Then we come at this particular index. So here the total number of pairs will be 2 and the number of good pairs will be the frequency of 2 minus 3, that is minus 1 in the hash map. So the frequency of minus 1 is 0, good pairs are 0, 2 minus 0 will be 2 only, 1 plus 2 will be 3. So the number of bad pairs are 3. And then we will update the frequency of minus 1 to 1. Then we will come at this particular index. So here the number of total pairs will be 3 and the number of good pairs will be 3 minus 3, that is 0. The frequency of 0 from the hash map is 1. So the number of good pairs are 1. So number of bad pairs will be 3 minus 1, that is 2, and 3 plus 2 will be 5. So the total number of bad pairs that we have got are 5 and 5 is our answer. So simply this is what we are going to do. Now let's look at the code. So first of all, let's create an unordered map for storing the frequency of our elements. Let's name it MP. And then we will create a long variable bad where we will store the count of number of bad pairs. Right. Now, since the 0th index, that is the first element in the nums, that will not form any bad pairs, right? So we can update it straight away. So in the map, we will update the frequency of index, which is 0, minus the value, which is nums of 0, and we will make it as 1. And then we will run a for loop of I starting from 1, because for the 0th index, we have already updated in our map. So I less than nums dot size and then I plus plus. Now inside this, what are the total number of pairs? That is equals to the index, which is I, and the number of good pairs will be the frequency of I minus nums of I, right? So in MP, the frequency of I minus nums of I, this will give you the good pairs, right? So in the bad pairs, what are we going to add? We are going to add total minus good, right? And once we have updated it, now we will update the frequency of I minus nums of I in the map. So in the map, I minus nums of I, we will increment it by 1, right? And at the end, we can simply return the number of bad pairs. So let's run this. So here if you see, we are only iterating once inside our nums vector. So our time complexity over here will be order of n. And if we talk about the space complexity, so here we have taken an unordered map in which we are storing the frequency of I minus nums of I. Now in the worst case, what could happen is that for each and every index, this value is different. So you will end up adding n different elements in your map. So our space complexity will be order of n. So let's submit this now. So it got accepted. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe our channel.